Welcome back to the People of Penn State podcast. I'm Katie Farnan from the Penn State Alumni Association. Today, I'm joined by Arianna Davis, the Digital Editorial Director at Today. Arianna graduated from the Belisario College of Communications in 2009 with a degree in journalism. We're going to dive into her time at Penn State, her career in media, her book, What Would Frida Do? A Guide to Living Boldly, and more today. Arianna, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. I love that intro. We are.
Penn State. Off to a great start. So let's start with Penn State. Why did you choose to come here?
Oh, love that question. I'm really lucky in two ways. One is that I always knew from a young age what I wanted to do. So I always knew from literally, I think third or fourth grade that I wanted to be a writer. Or I wanted to do something in kind of like the writing field. And then the second way I was really lucky is my dad is very organized and from the beginning was very okay, what colleges do we want to look at? Let's look at schools that have good communications programs since you're interested in writing. So we had kind of narrowed down the list by the time I got to high school. And obviously Penn State has such an amazing communications program. And it was one of the different schools on the East Coast that I looked at. But once we got to Penn State, and it's actually a funny story. The first time I went to Penn State, it was nonstop pouring rain. It was super cold. We did a tour of the campus and I couldn't see anything. And I was just yeah, I think this one's next off the list. But then a friend of my dad's actually introduced us to, I'm going to shout out Ben Bronstein. He is an alum who's super involved in all things Penn State. And he basically convinced us to come back. He was let me take you around the second time. You're going to love it, I promise. And so when we went back, it was the most beautiful sunny day. He showed us around all weekend. He introduced me to several folks in the College of Communications. And I just fell in love on that visit. It was just it was such a gorgeous campus. I just got a really amazing feeling being there. And then it also helps that I knew that there was an amazing communications program and that I was interested in journalism and in writing. So that was kind of what started the whole Nittany Lion journey for me.
That state college weather, it can be brutal.
That's the thing. And being there all 4 years, I learned that pretty quickly. But it was that first visit, I was why would anyone ever come here? And then on the day that it was sunny, I was this is the best place ever.
Totally different experience.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your experience while you were here. What clubs were you involved with? How did you get involved beyond your major? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel so lucky every time I think about my time at Penn State. I always say it was a dream. I feel like I got the real college experience. I think for me, outside of journalism, two big things that I think really shaped me. One was I should say three things. I did end up as a reporter at the Daily Collegian, just knowing that, I was a communications major, and everyone kind of says it's one of those things at Penn State that if you are able to join the team at the Daily Collegian, it's a big kind of must do. So I did that. I think I was an arts and entertainment reporter at the Daily Collegian, and that was my first real kind of extracurricular activity. And then while I was at Penn State was when Valley Magazine was founded. So Valley Magazine, it was a very big thing because there were a lot of people like myself who were interested in magazines and were interested in getting kind of more of that lifestyle magazine experience. And so when that was founded, I joined the Valley Magazine staff as a managing editor. And then actually my senior year, I was able to work as editor-in-chief. So that was really cool because we were literally just producing our own magazine that was kind of at least the college version, I would say, of a Cosmo or a 17. So that was super fun. And then I also was my sophomore year, I became a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and AKA is one of is the first historically Black sorority. And so when I was there, we actually helped to bring the chapter back to our campus. And I was really involved. In my senior year, I became president. So my senior year at Penn State, I was president of the Delta Gamma chapter of AKA, and then I was also editor-in-chief of Valley Magazine. So I definitely got a lot of extracurricular experience that year, but it was really fun. And I think that some of my biggest and busiest times in my career, I often think back to that time at Penn State, and I think that really prepared me in a lot of ways.
You were busy. Did you find time to sleep?
I was busy, but you know what? I don't know. I in my mind, I felt I had friends who were pre-law or who were trying to go to med school and were taking, and for me, it was just I just loved my journalism major in those classes so much that for me, it was I feel in comparison to my friends who were I don't know, doing all of these like really crazy intensive, like, you know, either medical or science related classes. I was like, you know, I just loved every single class that I got to take. At least that was part of like my actual journalism and comms program. So for me, I just felt like getting to do all those things on top of my major was like really cool. But, you know, I had friends who were like literally sleeping in the library overnight because they were trying to like get ready for the LSATs or whatever else. So I feel like I was definitely very busy, but in comparison to other majors, I probably was doing okay.
Busy in a fun way.
Exactly,
That's important.
exactly.
So where did you land after graduation?
So here's my, like, I have like two really great Penn State stories. So one is that my senior year, obviously it's like, you know, you're thinking about jobs, where are we going to go next? And Dean Harden, she's now the dean, but back when I was at Penn State, she was actually a professor of copy editing. I was taking one of my like communications classes was on copy editing, and she had kind of mentioned to me, hey, I think you actually have a really good eye for editing. I think that you should apply to this program called the Dow Jones Newspaper Fund, which basically is a program that places journalism, people who are interested in journalism and reporting and copy editing at different newspapers around the country. And long story short, I ended up getting placed at the New York Daily News. So I was moving to New York after graduation. It was a postgraduate paid internship program at a newspaper. So I was like super happy that I had something set up. It was like going to be like my foot in the door. But I always really, my passion, as I mentioned, with being with Valley was always magazines. And I really wanted to break into that field, but I just didn't really know how. And it seemed like this very glamorous world. And I had kind of heard that you had to like know the right people and you had to have done a lot of undergrad internships. So I moved to New York knowing that like that was a dream, but I didn't know how it would ever happen. But a key thing that happened was while I was right before I graduated, I was a night scholar, and at one of our scholarship dinners, Jane Jameson, who was a Penn State alum and was the publisher of 17 magazine, was the speaker. And after she spoke on stage, I literally like casually pretended I had to go to the bathroom, and I followed her into the bathroom. I don't know if I would recommend this to everybody, but it worked for me. I followed her into the bathroom, and I just casually was there washing my hands next to her. And I was like, oh my gosh, fancy seeing you here. You know, I'm getting ready to graduate. I'm moving to New York, and I would love to, you know, get your business card if you have one. I was just so enamored by her and everything that she said during this speaking engagement. And I loved that she was, you know, a Penn Stater out there doing her thing in magazines. So when I did move to New York for this newspaper internship, I reached out to Jane. She graciously had lunch with me, and she kind of became a mentor for me. And we had lunch several times. And so when a position opened up for a post-grad internship at the Oprah magazine, which was the same company as 17, Jane was able to put in a good word for me. And I think that really helped get my resume, you know, a little bit further to the top. And I got the position as a post-grad intern at Oprah. And that was what really just like kickstarted my career in magazines and in media.
So what was it like working for O Magazine? Like, you're working with Oprah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, starting out, you know, I was an intern, so I was just kind of wide-eyed, doing everything and anything anybody would ever, you know, tell me to do. But eventually, I actually ended up getting a full-time job there as an editorial assistant, assisting Gayle King. If you don't know Gayle is, yes, Oprah's bestie, but she also is the editor-at-large of the magazine. She's also an anchor on CBS Morning. She's a radio host. She's done so much in journalism and media, and I think that was like the most incredible opportunity I could have ever dreamed of, just getting to assist her. And I always say it was like the Devil Wears Prada, but without the devil, because Gayle was just such an amazing boss and mentor. And I did get to do so many things and just like really learn what it's like to be an assistant and also eventually an editor in a very high powered environment. And because I was assisting Gayle, I did, you know, get that proximity to Oprah pretty early on in my career. And, you know, one of the things that I say is that she is exactly who she is on TV. Like she, I think, has taught me so many lessons about authenticity, because later in my career, I did meet a lot of other celebrities, and you realize that there are definitely some people who aren't exactly how they present themselves on TV or on social media in person, but Oprah is exactly who she is. She's so authentic. She's very honest and transparent, but also just like kind. And she's just really awesome. And I feel always just like super grateful that I got the opportunity to kind of have come of age in media while working for her.
Did you ever have any inside information on her favorite things? Because I feel like that is like the key.
Yeah, I actually really did. It's funny because the magazine really, especially after her show ended, was basically became the headquarters for favorite things. And so literally like there's like a closet at the magazine where like all of the products that are like being tested and tried out. That was definitely one of the biggest perks of the job, was that like we got to test and try out so many products, and any of the stuff that was kind of like dejected but was still really awesome stuff, like we as like the people on staff got to sometimes take things home. So there was a period when I was working there where like my family got the best Christmas gifts.
I mean, I can imagine that's like the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it like? You have interviewed some pretty high profile people: Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Oprah, Mariah Carey, Will Smith. Tell us what it's like to be, interviewing these people and kind of growing in your career and seeing yourself like, wow, I'm interviewing some celebrities here.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times I kind of just like almost have to just like close my eyes and just get through it, and it doesn't even hit me until afterwards. I think that if I think too much about it in advance, that's when you start getting nervous, or you start getting like super worried. And so I feel like a lot of times I like just try really hard to study as much as possible so that I'm as prepared as possible. I think that when it comes to like a high-powered interview like that, one of the things I always want to be prepared for is not being prepared. So if they ask a follow-up question, or if there's something that naturally comes up in conversation, I want to feel like I know exactly what I'm talking about and I'm as prepared as possible. So I think for those interviews, I really just do a lot of like preparing, researching, making sure I know every possible thing that could possibly come up in this interview. I just prepare. And then as soon as I'm there, it's just kind of like, I got to just like snap and get into the zone. And I think it doesn't really hit me until after the fact, or sometimes even now, it's like all these years later, I'm like, wow, I really did interview Mariah Carey. And like, that was such a crazy experience. Or I think the interview I was the most nervous for was definitely Hillary Clinton. That was while I was working at Refinery 29. And it was the first digital outlet interview that she had done after losing the election and after releasing her book. And just because it was like such a newsworthy interview, and it also was just like a really big deal. And I also was like, I was really just wowed that the team at Refinery had chosen me to do the interview. So it felt very high stakes, on top of the fact that I only had 12 hours to read this like 700-page book to prepare for the interview. I had to sign an NDA, and it was a whole thing. So that was definitely, I think of everything that I've done in my career, that was one of the like more nerve-wracking moments. But luckily it went really well.
12 hours to read the whole book. How did you manage that?
I didn't sleep for that one. I definitely didn't sleep. Literally, I think I got the book like it was like in the evening. I had to get like messenger to my house, and I signed the NDA, and then it was like the interview was first thing in the morning. So that was intense. But I literally was just like, I'm like, well, I gotta just get through this book as fast as possible.
It's what you see in movies, right?
Exactly.
So you're at the Today Show now. Tell us a little bit about your day-to-day, what that looks like, what it's like to be behind the scenes of the Today Show.
Yeah. So here at the Today Show, I'm editorial director of digital. So that basically, long story short, means I oversee all things today.com, our social channels, video, all that good stuff. Anything that is editorial or original content, I'm kind of overseeing the team that basically produces all of that. So it's an awesome job. I always say that like when I got here and I got to NBC, I was really like, I was like waiting for the other shoe to drop, because everyone here is just so nice, and the people here are just so kind, and the coolest people to work with, that I was just like, okay, so there's no like morning show drama, there's no, but everyone here is just the best. And my day is basically on our website, we obviously cover a lot of what is on the show. So like every segment that you see is in our video player. We're writing up articles about what the guests say on the show. But then we still have, the other however many hours of the day after the show's off the air, where we're producing a ton of original content. So we're doing lifestyle content in the health and wellness space. We're doing parenting content. We're covering pop culture news, trending news. So I manage a team of about 50 writers, editors, producers, and I'm kind of just like basically the mom of the team that's just really making sure that everything that we're publishing and that we're considering publishing fits within our brand, that it makes sense for us. I'm the one responsible for, making sure that if there are ever any errors or anything that goes wrong, I'm kind of the fixer of all of that. So it's a big team and it's a big job, but I love it. It keeps me super busy, and it's really, it's been awesome. I've been here for a little over 3 years now.
And you're on air sometimes too, right? During some of those segments?
Yeah, so we do a segment on the show. I do two segments. One is called This Is Today, and that's where I'm on the show kind of sharing some of the stories that are trending on today.com. So it's a little bit of like, obviously online, we cover a lot of what's happening on the show, but then I'm kind of also bringing some of what we do online to the show. And then on Jenna and Friends, which is the new version of Hoda and Jenna, where as they're kind of working on figuring out her co-host. That is the 10 o'clock hour. And on that hour, I do a segment called The Internet's Divided, where I share like some of the topics and hot topics that have people fired up and divided right now. So it's really fun. I love being on the show, and it's another perk of the job for sure.
Sounds like a good time. Good time to talk about all those things, right?
Of course, yes.
All right, so let's talk about your book and kind of the process. What it was like to write, how you went through that process, what the reaction's been, how it feels to have your work out there.
Yeah. So what would Frida do? It was published in 2020 during peak COVID time. So that's a funny story in and of itself. But so my kind of career journey, I mentioned I started at Oprah, and then eventually I ended up working a few other places, including Us Weekly, Refinery 29, and then I had actually in 2018 gone back to Oprah, back to Hearst to help them launch a website for Oprah Magazine. Believe it or not, they actually had never had a website before. So in 2018, I was like really in the thick of like launching a website, coming up with a strategy, working closely with Oprah and her team, hiring a team. It was like a really crazy time in my career. I loved it, but another time of like not really very much sleep. And then at that time, I got actually outreach from an agent. My agent, Wendy Sherman, she was working with a publisher who was interested in publishing something about the life of Frida Kahlo. And she was asking around to see if anyone knew of any writers that may be interested in writing something about Frida or who were like experts on Frida. And a former colleague of mine from Refinery 29 was like, you have to talk to this girl, Arianna. She's obsessed with Frida. So she basically reached out to me and was like, hi, would you have any interest in writing something about Frida? Basically, the way that it would work is that like you would put together an idea and a proposal, and we could work together on selling it to the publisher. And at the time, as I mentioned, I was really, really busy with work. It was just kind of a crazy time. But I was like, you know what? Like, even if it means even less sleep than I'm already getting, I mean, I've always wanted to write a book. It's always been at the top of my, kind of to-do list. I love Frida. I couldn't stop thinking about this. And I immediately had a million ideas. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So I think the book itself probably took from like start of the idea to selling the book to writing it to going and doing research in Mexico. I think the whole process was probably about 2 years. And then the book came out October 2020. So I was in my house still kind of during lockdown, but the book was out in the world, and it was a really, really unexpected but very cool experience.
So let's give our listeners a little teaser of what the book's about so that we can send them to the link.
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be great. So what would Frida do? If you've never heard of the iconic artist Frida Kahlo, she's one of the most well-known female artists of all time in history. She was Mexican. She was very far ahead of her time. We're talking about in like the early 1900s, way before it was like accepted for women to be like that. So she was very much known for living a very bold life. And so what would Frida do is like part biography, so you can learn her story or learn more about her story. But it's also a little bit of self-help. And it's kind of, as someone who is a Frida super fan, me sharing the lessons that I've learned from her life and how far ahead of her time she was, and how you can apply them to your own life if you're looking to live life a little bit more boldly.
What is the response you've gotten from that? And what is it like to see your work, no matter, across your whole entire career, see your work out there and being picked up by different outlets? What does that feel like?
Man, it's been, I think with Frida in particular, it was something I could have never dreamed of. And even to this day, I mean, it's been about 5 years now since it was first published. And since then it came out in paperback. It's been translated into, I think, 6 or 7 different languages. Honestly, I think when it was translated to different languages, that was like one of the craziest things to me, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, people in Hungary are reading this book, or, people can read it in Danish. Like, it was just really wild to me, in Turkish. But it was very special when it was translated into Spanish, just because Frida is Mexican, and that, obviously was really cool to see it translated into her native language. But I think the coolest thing of all is just like, every so often, even now 5 years later, I'll get an Instagram DM, or somebody will reach out to me via email and just say that, like, the book and reading Frida's story or some of the lessons that I shared, like, really did inspire them to live boldly, or it was exactly what they needed when they were going through something tough in their lives. So, it's something that never gets old. And I still, sometimes I'm just like, I can't believe that like my words are here printed in this book that will just be available for people to read anytime for the rest of my life and maybe even beyond. So it's pretty incredible.
So we are approaching graduation season. We would love to get your advice for a soon-to-be graduate who maybe is going into the media world. I think you have a pretty impressive career to back it up, and give some great advice to our new grads.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this because when I graduated from Penn State, to put it in perspective and I guess to age myself a little bit, Twitter, I think, was just founded or had just kind of really become a thing. So at that time, me, print journalism major, knowing that a job of being a digital editorial director for whether it's the Today Show or Oprah or anywhere, I didn't even know that was a possibility. And so I would say that for any graduate, especially in this world that we're living in, where like technology is constantly changing, things are constantly changing. I think for anyone who's a graduate, just being open and I think being versatile and knowing that whatever industry you're moving into, the world is changing, super fast. And so I think it's really key to just be someone who's always open to like sharpening different skill sets, trying new things. If if you get your foot in the door at an internship or at a job, being the person who says yes and raises your hand and gets as much different kinds of experience as you can, because I think that we are living in a world where when it comes to the workforce, there's more expectations of us in all these different places. And I think that as much as you can, try different things and just be open and not necessarily say, oh, well, I wanted to do X or I wanted to go down this path, so there's no way I should consider Y. I think the more open you can be and just really being flexible and understanding that like just because you make a decision or step into a job or an internship now as a new or a recent grad doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end up 10 years from now. So I think just being open and seeing what the universe sends your way is definitely a big piece of advice, I would say.
So you have been very busy, but what's next for Arianna?
Ooh, well, my next big thing that I want to do is I really want to publish a novel. So What Would Frida Do was nonfiction, and it was kind of like part biography, and that was such a fun project. But I'm a really big fiction reader. I love romance. I love contemporary fiction. So I've been working on a novel, something that's fiction, and I'm hoping that maybe it will get published. But as you said, life's a little busy, so it's all about finding the time to actually write it and get it done. But I would say that in addition to just continuing the work that I love here today, I'm excited to hopefully eventually publish my debut novel. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
I'm excited. I'll be watching for that one.
Thanks. I'll send you a copy.
Amazing. Can't wait. So I know you're a Real Housewives fan. This is for all the Bravo fans out there.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
What is your favorite Housewives franchise? I need to talk about it.
Katie, this is tough. This is really, really tough. It goes back and forth. And my Housewives love really blossomed, especially during the pandemic, because I used to only watch Atlanta and Potomac. And then the pandemic happened and I was like, well, I have a lot of time on my hands, so I can finally catch up. So I've now seen every single franchise except I think for the OC. But I think that my all-time favorite is probably Beverly Hills. I just feel like Beverly Hills is like the best mix of drama with actual like housewife rich lady stuff with like just consistency through the seasons. I used to really love New Jersey, but I feel like New Jersey kind of fell off the last few seasons. But that one used to be so good because there was a lot of like family drama.
Agreed.
And Salt Lake City and Potomac both recently have had some like really good drama on those seasons. So I think all time, everything all in one is probably Beverly Hills.
It just keeps getting better. Like they just keep adding more franchises. Bravo adds more spinoffs. Like, what are we supposed to do?
Exactly. I'm with you. And I love that you're a Bravo girly too.
Oh my God. Don't get me started, or we will be going down another path today. So we like to wrap everything up with a little bit of a lightning round of questions that are all Penn State based. So we'll go really quick, but you can take your time if you need to. Okay. So the first one is, what is your favorite creamery flavor?
Ooh, creamery flavor. I don't know if I have necessarily like favorite creamery flavor, but I will say that the lemonade at the creamery is like next level. That lemonade is like, whenever I think about the creamery, it's not even the ice cream that I think about. There's that like very, very super sweet, that's probably like tons of sugar lemonade, but that lemonade is like the standout for me at the creamery for sure.
That's a pro tip, like a secret creamery order. There you go.
Yeah. It's like I've never had a lemonade that's as good. They have it bottled. You can like, it's like, yeah. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go find the lemonade at the creamery and thank me later.
All right. Your favorite Penn State sport. What is the first one you're buying tickets for?
Football. I mean, come on, is that even a question? I was that girl who went to every single Penn State football game, and now as an alum, I don't necessarily watch every single game, but like if for the big ones, I'm still like, I'm going to the New York bars for the Penn State bars here. I love Penn State football.
Well, if you find yourself back on campus, you know where, come to the Alumni Center. We
Yes.
will be here.
Okay. All right. I'll stop by.
All right. Your favorite class and or professor while you were here at Penn State?
Ooh, well, I have to shout out there. So I was actually part of the inaugural version of this class. There's an international reporting class in the College of Communications. And so our year was actually the first year we went to Mexico City. So it's basically during spring break, you literally get to go, like the whole semester you're studying like everything there is to know about international reporting. And then you get to go to an international destination. So we went to Mexico City, and that literally, changed so much for me. It was really incredible. We went as a class for the week over spring break, and I reported on like a museum exhibit for the like 50th anniversary of Barbie that was happening in Mexico City. I wrote a reported piece on the rise of evangelical Christianity in Mexico City. I like got to go visit the New York Times bureau in Mexico City while we were there. It was like really awesome. So that was a really, really cool class. And I mean, it's kind of hard to top that because we got to like travel to another place for that class. And then I think as far as professors, I mentioned Dean Harden. She's now the dean of the College of Communications, but she was the professor that like really kind of started my career for me, because she was the one that was like, you should look at this program. And she just like was really attentive. And there's a reason she's the dean now. She's amazing.
All roads lead back to Penn State, right? That's
Exactly.
where things start.
Exactly.
Your favorite local State College restaurant, where were you going on those late nights where you weren't sleeping?
Oh man, on those late nights. Well, I heard that it recently closed, but on the real world late nights, I used to go to the McDonald's down on College Avenue. That was like the late night spot. But the Tavern is like, I think, a classic. Where else did I go? I mean, I was like a Commons girl. I was using those points. So I used to love Rutherford Commons. They had a really good cheesesteak. Don't know if it still exists, but that was like my good, like probably, freshman 15 came from that. And in the Hub, I used to always like go to, all the fast food spots. So I was definitely like a hopping from Commons to Commons kind of girl.
You got to take advantage of those meal points while you have it, because there will never be that free money again.
I wish that I could swipe that. I wish I could swipe for some meal points
like
now.
$2. Like, oh, my entire dinner was $2. Never again.
If you're listening to this and you have meal points, don't let them go to waste, please.
This is, yes, in those last couple weeks of school, make sure you're using all of that.
Exactly.
All right, last one. Who would be your dream Penn State dinner guest?
Penn State dinner guest, like someone like a Penn State alum or like
current student, alum, any Penn Stater.
Man, this is a hard one. I gotta think of like who are some like notable Penn Staters. I don't know. Katie, help me out. Who are some, like, I feel like I need to. I'm like blanking on like. So, I know that there's so many like notable Penn State people.
We stump people with this one a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
This is a hard one. I mean, the first person that comes to mind is because he just won a Super Bowl, Saquon Barkley. Like I would love. I'm like, can you like use that Super Bowl money? Let's like treat us all to a nice big dinner. But I feel like my dream Penn State dinner would probably be like all of my sorority sisters from Penn State, like the people that like I really love and that made that experience so amazing for me. Like I would love to just like get all of my line sisters together and like go back to Penn State and just have like a really nice dinner and just like be nostalgic about that time in our life. It would be awesome.
I love that answer. That is a good like reunion answer.
Yeah.
I think that if it happens, let us know. We will definitely be there.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're coming up on I guess in a couple years it'll be our 20th anniversary soon. So yikes.
Better start scheduling now.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Arianna. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and talking a little bit about your career. I had so much fun chatting with you.
Thanks, Katie. You're such a great interviewer. I can't wait to check out this podcast. I appreciate you having me. We are
Penn State. Thank you to Arianna for chatting with us today. If you're not following her on social media, you should be. And don't forget to check out her book, What Would Frida Do? A Guide to Living Boldly. For everyone watching or listening, we hope you'll join us next time. Find us where you get your podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks to our guest relations coordinator, Abrielle Clark, and a very special thank you to our producer, Vincent Lingaro, as this was his last episode producing. We wish him the best of luck on his next endeavors and appreciate all the work he has put into the People of Penn State podcast over the past 5 years. He's been working behind the scenes that whole time, and we are so grateful for everything he's done. We are